The diner fell silent the moment he walked in. Leather jacket, heavy boots, tattoos winding down his arms like stories written in ink. The kind of man people didn't dare look in the eye for too long. But what everyone remembered that day wasn't the man's presence. It was the way he looked at the waitress. Her hands were trembling as she poured coffee, her smile cracked like glass trying to hold together. And when the biker gang leader saw the faint purple marks along her jawline, the world seemed to stop. That was the moment everything changed, not just for her, but for the whole town. Before we go deeper, take a second to like, comment, and subscribe to Kindness. Kindora, where true stories of courage, compassion, and redemption come alive. Now, let's begin. The diner sat at the edge of a small, dusty town, a place where time seemed to crawl. Locals came every morning for the same black coffee, the same corner booth, and the same small-town gossip. And then there was Mary. She was the heart of that diner. A young woman with soft brown hair, always pinned neatly, her apron spotless, her voice gentle even when her world wasn't. No one talked about the bruises. No one asked, because everyone in that town knew who put them there. Her husband, Richard, a man with a slick suit, expensive watch, and a temper that could turn the air cold. He owned half the town's businesses, and the other half owed him something. Even the sheriff looked the other way when he yelled too loud or grabbed her arm too tight at the diner counter. Mary never complained. She'd smile, serve coffee, and pretend everything was fine. But her eyes told a different story, one of exhaustion, fear, and quiet desperation. Until they showed up. It was a Saturday morning, when the rumble of engines rolled down the highway like thunder. The locals froze, forks midair, as a group of bikers parked outside the diner. Their jackets bore the patch, Iron Saints Motorcycle Club. And leading them was Jack Ryder. Malone, a man known across states for being both feared and respected. Ryder wasn't just a biker. He was a man who'd seen too much. He carried the ghosts of lost brothers, broken roads, and a past that never stopped chasing him. But under all that leather and steel, there was a heart that still believed in right and wrong. They walked in, and the diner seemed smaller instantly. The waitress froze behind the counter, clutching the coffee pot. Ryder noticed her. Not just her beauty, but the way she flinched when someone laughed too loud. And then he saw her, the faint, fresh bruise along her cheekbone, half hidden under makeup. Something in his chest tightened. He didn't say anything at first, just watched, observed. When she leaned closer to pour his coffee, he saw the outline of a handprint on her wrist. "Rough morning?" he asked quietly. Mary froze. Her lips parted, but no words came out. She just nodded, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Ryder didn't push it. He looked at her, then at the few men sitting near the back who'd been watching her too closely, one of them being Richard. Richard was sitting there in his usual booth, his tie loosened, his eyes cold, and when he saw Ryder glance at his wife, he smirked. That smirk lit a fuse Ryder didn't know he still had. Days passed. The bikers kept coming back, not to cause trouble, but for the coffee, and maybe for her. Ryder started noticing small things, the way Mary winced when she reached for high shelves, the way she checked the clock nervously before every shift ended, and the way her smile would vanish when Richard's black car pulled into the parking lot. He asked the locals about her. Everyone said the same thing. That's Richard's wife. Best not to get involved. But Ryder wasn't the kind of man who ignored bruises. He'd grown up with them, seen his mother hide them under long sleeves until the day she couldn't anymore. That night, as the rain fell against the diner windows, Richard showed up. Again, drunk, angry. Mary was serving coffee when his voice cut through the diner. "Where the hell were you last night?" Everyone turned. "I was working late," she whispered. "Don't lie to me." He shouted, slamming his hand on the counter. The coffee pot shook. Ryder stood slowly, his chair scraping the floor. His men tensed behind him. Richard turned toward him, sneering. "What are you looking at, biker trash?" Ryder's voice was calm, too calm. Just someone who's had enough of watching cowards hit women. The diner went dead silent. Richard laughed, stepping closer. "You don't know who you're talking to." Ryder stepped forward too, his shadow swallowing Richard's. "Neither do you." And that was the moment. The one that every single person in that diner would remember for the rest of their lives. Before anyone could move, Richard raised his hand. But this time, it didn't land. Ryder caught his wrist midair. The sound echoed like thunder in the silence. "You ever touch her again," Ryder growled, his voice low and dangerous, "and I'll make sure you never lift that hand again." Richard tried to pull free, but Ryder's grip didn't budge. His men stood behind him, quiet but firm. A wall of leather, scars, and silent fury. Mary stood frozen, tears spilling down her cheeks. For the first time in years, someone had stood between her and the monster who'd made her life hell. Ryder let go, but his eyes didn't. "Walk away," he said. Richard did, muttering threats, stumbling toward the door, his pride more broken than his body. The townsfolk watched in disbelief. No one had ever dared confront Richard before, and that night word spread faster than wildfire. The biker gang had stood up for the Waitress. Over the next few weeks, something changed. Mary's smile started to look real again. She began talking, laughing even. Ryder and his crew would stop by every morning, not for protection but for company. They fixed the diner's leaky roof, repainted the faded sign, even brought in new chairs from a nearby town. The place began to feel alive again. But one evening, Richard returned, this time not alone. He had 2 men with him, and hate in his eyes. He waited outside until the bikers left, then cornered Mary in the alley behind the diner. "You think you can embarrass me?" he hissed. "You're mine." Before he could touch her, headlights flooded the alley. Ryder's bike screeched to a halt. "Not anymore," he said, stepping off the bike. What followed wasn't a fight, it was justice. Ryder didn't throw a single punch that wasn't deserved. And when it was over, Richard lay in the dirt, his reign of fear finally broken. The sheriff showed up, but this time, he didn't look away. Ryder's men stood witness. Mary gave her statement. And for the first time, justice didn't hide behind money. Months passed. The diner thrived. Travelers came from towns away, drawn by stories of the Waitress and the bikers who'd stood up for her. Mary owned the place now. The Iron Saints were regulars, their laughter echoing through the once quiet diner. As for Ryder, he never took credit. He just smiled, sipped his coffee, and said sometimes the world just needs someone to stand up. He was right, because that one act of courage, that one moment of kindness wrapped in steel and tattoos, reminded everyone in that small town that heroes don't always wear uniforms. Sometimes they ride motorcycles and drink black coffee. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Kindora. Your support helps more stories of courage, compassion, and humanity reach hearts around the world. Life has a way of testing us, of making us look the other way when it's easier, of silencing the voices that deserve to be heard. But sometimes it takes just one person to say enough. That day, Ryder didn't just save a woman. He reminded an entire town what it means to care. Because kindness isn't weakness, it's strength, the kind that changes lives, one brave act at a time.